Hello and welcome to another episode of Should You Roll. And this week we're looking at the Avenger Edmond Dantes, who is currently on rateup, and he is highly sought after due to Skadi memes coming in Summer 3. So we'll be looking into that, alternative units for him, as well as different support setups you can do. Edmond Dantes sits at a high attack of almost 13k, at a health pool of just about 12k at max level. He sits at a low star absorption of 30 and a NP charge per attack of 0.62%. His card deck is double quick, double buster, with 4 attacks per quick, 2 per arch, and 3 per buster, and a whopping 5 on his extra attack, which means he is good at generating crit stars whenever he is allowed to spend his attacks for those. As for his skills, we have Determination of Steel EX, which ignores invincibility, increase your own attack for a single turn, as well as increase your debuff resistance for 3 turns. The attack is between 30 and 50%, and the debuff resistance is 14 to 32%. So the debuff resistance is kind of lackluster, but the attack buff is a huge deal whenever you have a Buster Chain or the NP available. As for his second skill, we have Golden Rule A, very basic, but it is a strong NP generation rate of between 20 and 50% at max rank. This is the ability that allows him to loop with Skadi in the future, and in current live, it'll help him recharge a lot of his Noble Phantasm whenever you do pull it off. As for his third skill, we have Wisdom from Desperation A, which reduces an enemy's NP gauge by 1, removes his own debuffs, and it lets you gain crit stars. This only goes from 10 to 20 with level, which means it is a lower priority than the 2 other skills for you. As for passive skills, we have Avenger A, reduce party's debuff resistance by 10%, but increase your own NP generation rate when taking damage by 20%. We have Oblivion Correction B, increase your own crit damage, and Self-Replenishment Magic, charge your own NP gauge by 3% every turn. Same NP charge per turn as Gorgon. As for the Noble Phantasm, we have Enfer Chateau de Lif, or Tiger, Burning Bright. Gotta butcher that. Which is an AoE quick Noble Phantasm with 8 hits. Deals damage to all enemies, reduce their defense after the damage, and inflict curse for 5 turns. So main part here is whenever we're looking for a servant that can loop their Noble Phantasm in the future, we want as many hit counts as possible on the Noble Phantasm, and preferably some sort of overcharge that helps here. Dante's overcharge helps you with killing off the bigger enemies in waves with the rest of his face cards. As for his Bond C, we have increased party quick performance by 15% while he's on the field. Very standard quick Bond C, but those Bond ECs are most for show anyway. So, a future servant coming is Skadi, which is the reason Edmond Dantes is so sought after all of a sudden. She will be the quick equivalent of Tamamo, but she comes with a targeted 50% NP charge, as well as quick buffs, which has led to several quick units being capable of 3-turning on their own by looping their Noble Phantasms with recharge after each use. This is an expensive setup to go through, so if you want to go for both, you need your own Skadi, you need your own servant that can loop, and you need a support Skadi. Otherwise, you won't be boosting the looper enough to perform multiple Noble Phantasms. If you're just rolling for Edmond Dantes for the loop, which alternatives do we have? For Berserkers, we have Berserker Lancelot, who is currently capable of looping with some help from Skadi and the Mage Association Mystic Code. All of these looping setups requires your servants to be maxed, both your Skadi and whatever looping servant you have, at least for their NP charging skill. But Lancelot, Berserker, loops by using his 1-turn NP gain, so you have to make sure you use this NP gain on the turn where you believe it'll be the hardest to loop your Noble Phantasm, as well as make sure you use Skadi's skills at proper times. MHX Ultra is single target, but she does come with the same option to loop Noble Phantasms. She will get a strengthening before Skadi's release, increasing her quick up, tied in with her instinct, which will mean she'll gain crit stars for whatever card she'll be using outside of her Noble Phantasm, as well as increasing her quick performance for her Noble Phantasm, which has multiple hits, leading you to be capable of looping with the proper setup. As for looping Lancers, we have Valkyrie, Pravarti, and Bradamante, who are all future servants, but all 3 of these are capable of looping with Skadi, so looking into any of those would lead you to an easier time looping without necessarily having to roll for Edmond Dantes. The issue here is obviously that compared to the Berserkers or Edmond Dantes, you will be able to run into enemy types that you have a disadvantage against. Out of these 3, I would say Valkyrie is the better of the loopers, since she has flat NP charge every turn and increased crit stars, making it easier to crit with remaining cards every turn. As for other quick units you can use, there's the rider Achilles, who will be coming in a future update as well, who has quick up both as part of his NP and as part of his kit, and an NP charge tied with a taunt, which leads him to loop as well. And finally we have Atalante as the only unit besides Lancelot who's currently available. With her strengthening and unlock of the third skill, she gets an NP charge of 50% for 3 turns, which leads her to being capable of looping as well. As for supports that are currently available for you should you roll Edmond Dantes, we have Alexander Ryder, who has a 3-turn quick buff. We have Skadi, who has a single turn 50% up for 1 target for quick up. We have Helena with 3-turn 20% quick up, so either Alexander or Helena for multiple terms of quick up. Helena does have the benefit of having a tied in NP charge as well, making it easier to actually gain the Noble Phantasms you want to use. And finally we have Atalante with her own AoE Noble Phantasm, but also with an AoE up to 50% quick up. These are the 4 supports currently available on NA, and until Skadi is released, they're all we have for supporting quick. So either you have to roll for multiple units with quick up, or you have to sit on Alexander and a support for your only viable quick hit card support. As for potential setups for a whale, you would be using a Rash with K-Scope or a Imaginary Element for the charge, leading you to clear the first turn of a battle. Bring your own waiver and a support waiver, as well as a K-Scope and the Mage's Association on Edmond Dantes, leading you to clear the first turn with a Rash. Chart with Mystic Coat and a second turn for Dantes. And finally clearing 100% with double waiver on the third note to NP again with Dantes. This is just one of possible whale comps, but if you really want to get into the experience of looping Noble Phantasms, this is the way to do it currently. As for cheaper to play, say you pull either Dantes or you happen to have your own waiver but can't roll for Dantes, you can use Alexander as the middle link and bring a support Dantes or waiver to fill out a team with both damage up and NP charge to get multiple NPs off during a battle. As for a free-to-play comp, say you don't pull Dantes and you don't have anything yourself, you can bring Alexander for the quick up, and you can bring Caesar for the charisma and the Noble Phantasm strength to clear out multiple notes. The issue with this setup is that Alexander will be draining every quick star away from Dantes due to his horrible crit star absorption, but outside of that, the damage support for the NP alone will be enough to carry you through a lot of notes. So in conclusion, we have several options outside of Edmond Dantes for AoE clears in the future, as well as single target options to do with Skadi for several memes. Currently the support available for Edmond Dantes is fairly weak, unless you're spending a lot of money and make it work through having multiple very rare Cs and rare servants, at which point you would be able to do several other comps that could do more damage with the same craft essences. I would say Dantes is not in the greatest spot, but if you want to look ahead and you don't care about the other alternatives for looping servants, now is the time to roll for him, or unless you want to wait for Summit 3. But should you roll for him, you don't have to. Thanks for watching.